I've just clicked
Okay.
start streaming.
Yeah, okay.
So I'm there on my OBS and we are live.
Okay.
I can see us live on D Live. So
Good
hopefully
evening, everyone.
that's good. That's there to stay now. Good evening, everyone. Hello.
I have no idea what has been happening tonight, but
I know.
apparently we are back on now. So
I
thank you for being patient with us.
I think I need to find whatever god is currently responsible for tech. Whoever's taken over that role. Offer some
Yeah.
sacrifices or something the like.
Um.
Because someone's got to be in charge of the
Yeah.
computers. Of the fates
Yeah.
with the computers.
It might be Loki who is
That
roaming around or something.
that would explain a lot of things if Loki was in charge of computers.
Or maybe I have a Nissa with me
Maybe.
who have decided to be a bit pesky tonight.
Are they like the fairies?
They are fairy-like. They usually lived in the barns and helped out, on the farms. But you had to
Oh.
treat them well and set out forage for them, or else they would wreak havoc on the farm if you displeased them. They are tiny little creatures, and the males have a long beard and they have knitted
Oh.
long caps on them. And
Oh yeah.
as long as you keep them happy, they are quite nice, but they do get onto
Hmm.
some mischief. So
Yeah.
maybe that was what's happening. Apparently, my OBS had some troubles tonight, I think, and Discord had some trouble. So
Yeah. It definitely did.
yeah,
I think that actually might have been a Discord issue on my end.
it sounded like it. What happened after that, I have no idea.
But yeah, hello everybody, and welcome to the stream. And we were just going to start off by saying thank you to some people who donated lemons to us, because we really do appreciate all the support that we get. And oh, thank you Never Surrender for the ice cream and the lemons. And DDJ just donated lemons as well. We've had lemons in the last week from Besot Bear, Lycomedes, Jaffa's TV, and Right Meow. We've had lemons from Boudica. The Thin Red Line donated 100 lemons to us at one point, and another 10 lemons. So really, really thankful to everyone who's put in a donation. It's really lovely to get the support, and we're sort of planning to spend that on audio equipment, on giving to other right-wing creators that we like and who we feel do, good work and good content on the cultural front. So that is the JK. I haven't figured out lemons yet. They're actually kind of dangerously easy to give. You just have to click on the relevant icon, and then it's just you've just given someone a lemon or a diamond if you have it. The conversion rates or how to buy/donate them. We do not know how to buy lemons, but it seems like if you give 100 lemons, the creator will get 75 lemons actually. So I think D-Live does take a little bit of the lemons.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
I'm
So
not quite sure the percentage, but they do take some of it.
yeah, they take a little bit off the top. It keeps
Yeah,
saying insufficient balance. Yeah, it might be depending on what you're trying to donate. I don't know, because if you don't have 1,000 lemons, you can't donate a ninja guinea, for example. But you know, we definitely don't expect any lemons. We're just really, really happy to have so many people listening to the stream.
yeah.
Definitely.
Uh, we do this out of love for our culture and our people, so
Mm.
we don't expect any donations at all. We do this because we want to do it, not because we might get anything from it. And everything we happen to get in will go back to the community or go in full to equipment and text and information and everything. So everything will be uh, funded back into the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we got lots of
Uh,
new followers as well, so thank you to everybody who's given us a follow.
yeah. But it's really fun to have more people
Yeah.
tuning in. And we're still very new show, so
Mhm.
hopefully we will grow in time.
Yeah. Oh,
Welcome,
and
Red Pill Pharmacist.
yeah, thank you. Thank you for following just now.
Yeah, just sit down with by the heart and
Yeah.
take it easy with stories. Should I get to that poem I was going to mention?
Yes, we before we had any stories tonight, we are going to read out a poem that was written by Semiagog, and it is a bit of a draft, as he says, but it's about stories, and it's about ancient wisdom,
Yeah,
and yeah, we thought it was really
uh,
profound.
when I first read it, I immediately struck by how it was descriptive of what we want to do with the show. And I'll put a
Mm.
link in the comment section on D Live. If you could put it in YouTube, please. Because
Yes.
it really tells of the deeper meaning of the stories uh, and how we can find wisdom of it. As said, it's a draft, so
Mm.
the end might be different than what we see now. But okay, here we go.
Yep.
On the binding of wolves, the mystic mystifies unsown minds, befouled by vulgar fact, yet ancient tales, mistaken as aimless, hoard rewards for the wise. All truth is elusive, troubling when found, knife to the knots of the mind, half-truth is kindled, hidden in rhymes, rightly read by few, fathomed by fewer still. Do you think that is quite a fascinating poem there? And he is using the Old Norse rhyming in that. He is very
Mm.
inspired by it. And I do have some links on.
Yeah, some links related to the structures of the old
Yeah,
poems. Yeah, which is very fascinating for anyone who is interested in the structures of stuff like Edit verse. I know I've been meaning to read up on it myself, because I have read quite a lot of the Eddas. It'd be interesting to unpack the general conventions of the style. I definitely think so. But yeah,
I think.
well done to
I think
Semiagog for that composition.
oh,
That
definitely.
yeah, that's really good. And he was like, "Oh, it's just a draft." It's like just a draft.
Yeah,
I can't even. I can't even do poems that good on a third
No,
draft. Yeah,
I can't do it that well on a finished piece. So
yeah.
so here comes the link. That was one. He has also linked to a YouTube channel of Jackson Crawford, and he is uh, a lecturer on Norse. So he has a lot of good information on anything Norse, including lessons. So you can actually learn Old Norse from him. So for anyone interested, please go and visit him. Okay, so are we ready for today's topic?
Yes. Yes, we are. I'm just going to. It seems the YouTube preview. That is something that you can only do when you just set up on YouTube. So I'm going to drop the link to our stream now in the YouTube preview.
Okay.
Because I think some people have gone there.
I have too many things running on my computer right now.
Yeah, that is a lot. There is a lot going on. There's a lot of
Yeah.
screens. A monitor.
I definitely understand those who have
Mm.
several monitors going.
Yes.
You know, YouTube is up and running, and
Yeah. Yeah, but the story I have today, I did find it particularly interesting upon coming across it, and it's a very old story. Just from some of the tropes included, such as the evil stepmother trope. They reckon that's a trope older than feudalism, which means that sort of trope was turning up sort of between the invention of the Greek alphabet and the fall of Rome. Apparently, if it's older than the Greek alphabet, it's considered a trope that's older than dirt. And the tale itself, well, it's known to have appeared in George Peele's play, The Old Wives' Tale from 1595, or at least a very similar story. And it's also called The Spinning Women by the Spring, and The Man's Daughter and the Woman's Daughter. And it's sort of this same tale that runs pretty similarly in Germany with the spinning women, and Norway is The Man's Daughter and the Woman's Daughter. And it's a very old trope. It's actually categorized as a tale in the Arne Thompson Uther Folklore Catalogue, which is a comprehensive document of folklore tropes. And what it's called is The Kind and the Unkind Girl. And a similar type of story appears throughout Europe and in some places in Asia and Indonesia included. So it's very much a universal Indo-European trope. And this particular version of the tale is called The Three Heads of the Well. Once upon a time there reigned a king in Colchester. Valiant, strong, wise, famous as a good ruler. But in the midst of his glory his dear queen died, leaving him with a daughter just touching woman's estate. That means almost a woman. And this maiden was renowned far and wide for beauty, kindness, and grace. Now strange things happen, and the king of Colchester, hearing of a lady who had immense riches, had a mind to marry her, though she was old, ugly, hook-nosed, and ill-tempered. And though she was, furthermore, possessed of a daughter as ugly as herself. None could give the reason why, but only a few weeks after the death of his dear queen, the king brought this loathly bride to court, and married her with great pomp and festivities. Now the very first thing she did was to poison the king's mind against his own beautiful, kind, gracious daughter, of whom, naturally, the ugly queen and her ugly daughter were dreadfully jealous. Now, when the young princess found that even her father had turned against her, she grew weary of court life, and longed to get away from it. So one day, happening to meet the king alone in the garden, she went down on her knees and begged and prayed him to give her some help, and let her go out into the world to seek her fortune. To this the king agreed, and told his consort to fit the girl out for her enterprise in a proper fashion. But the jealous woman only gave her a canvas bag of brown bread and hard cheese, with a bottle of small beer. Though this was but a pitiful dowry for a king's daughter, the princess was too proud to complain, so she took it, returned her thanks, and set off on her journey through woods and forests, by rivers and lakes, over mountain and valley. At last she came to a cave, at the mouth of which, on a stone, sat an old man, with a white beard. "Good morrow, fair damsel," he said. "Whither away so fast?" "Reverend father," replies she, "I go to seek my fortune." "And what hast thou for dowry, fair damsel?" said he, "in thy bag and bottle?" "Bread and cheese and small beer, father," she said, smiling. "Will it please you to partake of either?" "With all my heart," says he, and when she pulled out her provisions he ate them nearly all. But once again she made no complaint, but bade him eat what he needed and welcome. Now when he had finished he gave her many thanks, and said, "For your beauty and your kindness and your grace, take this wand. There is a thick, thorny hedge before you which seems impassable, but strike it thrice with this wand, saying each time, 'Please, hedge, let me through,' and it will open a pathway for you. Then, when you come to a well, sit down on the brink of it. Do not be surprised at anything you may see, but whatever you are asked to do, that do." So saying, the old man went into the cave, and she went on her way. After a while she came to a high, thick, thorny hedge. But when she struck it 3 times with the wand, saying, "Please, hedge, let me through," it opened a wide pathway for her. So she came to the well, on the brink of which she sat down, and no sooner had she done so, than a golden head without any body came up through the water, singing as it came, "Wash me and comb me, lay me on a bank to dry, softly and prettily to watch the passers-by." "Certainly," she said, pulling out her silver comb. Then, placing the head on her lap, she began to comb the golden hair. When she had combed it, she lifted the golden head softly, laid it on a primrose bank to dry. No sooner had she done this than another golden head appeared, singing as it came, "Wash me and comb me, lay me on a bank to dry, softly and prettily to watch the passers-by." "Certainly," says she, and after combing the golden hair, placed the golden head softly on the primrose bank, beside the first one. Then a third head came out of the well, and it said the same thing, "Wash me and comb me, lay me on a bank to dry, softly and prettily to watch the passers-by." "With all my heart," she says graciously, and after taking the head on her lap, and combing its golden hair with her silver comb, there were the 3 golden heads in a row on the primrose bank, and she sat down to rest herself and looked at them. They were so quaint and pretty, and as she rested she cheerfully ate, and drank the meagre portion of the brown bread, hard cheese, and small beer. which the old man had left her. For though she was a king's daughter, she was too proud to complain. Then the first head spoke. "Brothers, what shall we weird this damsel, who has been so gracious unto us? I weird her to be beautiful, that she shall charm every one she meets." "And I," said the second head, "weird her a voice that shall exceed the nightingale's in sweetness." "And I," said the third head, "weird her to be so fortunate that she shall marry the greatest king that reigns." "Thank you with all my heart," says she, "but don't you think I'd better put you back in the well before I go on? Remember you are golden, and the passers-by might steal you." To this they agreed, so she put them back. And when they had thanked her for her kind thought, and said good-bye, she went on her journey. Now she had not travelled far before she came to a forest where the king of the country was hunting with his nobles. And as the gay cavalcade passed down the glade, she stood back to avoid them. But the king caught sight of her and drew up his horse, fairly amazed at her beauty. "Fair maid," he said, "who art thou, and whither goest thou through the forest thus alone?" "I am the King of Colchester's daughter, and I go to seek my fortune," says she, and her voice was sweeter than the nightingale's. Then the king jumped from his horse, being so struck by her that he felt it would be impossible to live without her, and falling on his knee, begged and prayed her to marry him without delay. And he begged and prayed so well that at last she consented. So, with all courtesy, he mounted her on his horse behind him, and commanding the hunt to follow, he returned to his palace, where the wedding festivities took place with all possible pomp and merriment. Then, ordering out the royal chariot, the happy pair started to pay the King of Colchester a bridal visit, and you may imagine the surprise and delight with which, after so short an absence, the people of Colchester saw their beloved, beautiful, kind, and gracious princess return in a chariot all gemmed with gold, as the bride of the most powerful king in the world. The bells rang out, flags flew, drums beat, people huzzaed, and all was gladness, save for the ugly queen and her ugly daughter, who were ready to burst with envy and malice. You see, the despised maiden was now above them both, and went before them at every court ceremonial. So after the visit was ended, and the young king and his bride had gone back to their own country, there to live happily ever after, the ugly, ill-natured princess said to her mother, the ugly queen, "I also will go into the world and seek my fortune. If that drab of a girl with her mincing ways got so much, what may I not get?" So her mother agreed, and furnished her forth with silken dresses and furs, and gave her provisions, sugar, almonds, and sweetmeats of every variety, besides a large flask of Malaga sack, altogether a right royal dowry. Armed with these she set forth, following the same road as her stepsister. Thus she soon came upon the old man with a white beard, who was seated on a stone by the mouth of the cave. "Good morrow," says he. "Whither away so fast?" "What's that to you, old man?" she replied rudely. "And what hast thou for dowry in bag and bottle?" he asked quietly. "Good things with which you shall not be troubled," she answered pertly. "Wilt thou spare an old man something?" he said. Then she laughed. "Not a bite, not a sup, lest they should choke you." though that would be a small matter to me," she replied, with a toss of her head. "Then ill luck go with thee," remarked the old man as he rose and went into the cave. So she went on her way, and after a time came to the thick, thorny hedge, and seeing what she thought was a gap in it, she tried to pass through. But no sooner had she got well into the middle of the hedge than the thorns closed in around her, so that she was all scratched and torn before she won her way. Thus, streaming with blood, she went on to the well, and seeing water, sat on the brink intending to cleanse herself. But just as she dipped her hands, up came a golden head, singing as it came, "Wash me and comb me, lay me on the bank to dry, softly and prettily to watch the passers-by." "A likely story," said she. "I'm going to wash myself." And with that she gave the head such a bang with her bottle that it bobbed below the water. But it came up again, and so did a second head, singing as it came, "Wash me and comb me, lay me on the bank to dry, softly and prettily, to watch the passers-by." "Not I," scoffed she. "I'm going to wash my hands and face and have my dinner." And so she fetches the second head a cruel bang with the bottle, and both heads ducked down into the water. But when they came up again, all draggled and dripping, the third head came also, singing as it came, "Wash me and comb me, lay me on the bank to dry, softly and prettily, to watch the passers-by." By this time the ugly princess had cleansed herself, and, seated on the primrose bank, had her mouth full of sugar and almonds. "Not I," says she as well as she could. "I'm not a washerwoman nor a barber, so take that for your washing and combing." And with that, having finished the Malaga sack, she flung the empty bottle at the three heads. But this time they didn't duck. They looked at each other and said, "How shall we weird this rude girl for her bad manners?" The first head said, "I weird that to her ugliness shall be added to blotches on her face." And the second head said, "I weird that she shall ever be as hoarse as a crow, and speak as if she had her mouth full." Then the third head said, "I weird that she shall be glad to marry a cobbler." Then the three heads sank into the well, and were no more seen, and the ugly princess went on her way. But lo and behold, when she came to a town, the children ran from her ugly blotched face, screaming with fright. And when she tried to tell them she was the King of Colchester's stepdaughter, her voice squeaked like a corncrake's, was hoarse as a crow's, and folk could not understand a word she said, because she spoke as if her mouth was full. Now in the town there happened to be a cobbler who had not long mended the shoes of a poor old hermit, and the latter, having no money, had paid for the job by the gift of a wonderful ointment, which would cure blotches on the face, and a bottle of medicine that would banish any hoarseness. So seeing the miserable, ugly princess in great distress, he went up to her, and gave her a few drops out of his bottle, and then understanding, from her rich attire and clearer speech, that she was indeed a king's daughter, he craftily said that if she would take him to husband, he would undertake to cure her. "Anything, anything," sobbed the miserable princess. So they were married, and the cobbler straightway set off with his bride to visit the King of Colchester. But the bells did not ring, the drums did not beat, and the people, instead of huzzaing, burst into loud guffaws at the cobbler in leather and his wife in silks and satins. As for the ugly queen, she was so enraged and disappointed that she went mad, and hanged herself in wrath. Whereupon the king, really pleased at getting rid of her so soon, gave the cobbler £100 and bade him go about his business with his ugly bride. Which he did quite contentedly, for £100 means much to a cobbler. So they went to a remote part of the kingdom and lived unhappily for many years, he cobbling shoes, and she spinning the thread for him. So yeah, that is the tale of the three heads of the well. That is also known sometimes as the King of Colchester's daughter, in England at least. So that is what I had found for today. And I think one of the basic meanings that one could take to it is just not to be mean. You know, we see that each character in the tale gets good fortune for good actions, and bad fortune for bad actions, which is generally a very Indo-European belief. You know, we've got karma for the Hindus, and the same concept I think was called Orlog for the Germans. So it doesn't really matter how many lifetimes or whatnot that it takes to come round. Putting bad stuff out into the world will get you bad returns.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's also, I think, seen in other aspects of Western culture. I don't think, you know, Christianity, when we took it up, also advocated that all things whatsoever that ye would that men should do to you, do ye even so unto them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the first messages I took from it. I don't know if you've got any initial thoughts about it that you had yourself, Links.
Well, it was very similar, my first thoughts. And also to heed the advice you are given by your elders.
Well, that is another thing that I took from it as well. I did take there actually to be on further reading and on sort of investigating the symbolism a lot more to that about respecting the ancestors and respecting old knowledge, and something about what you go out there seeking, whether that be knowledge, enlightenment, you know, good things and happiness in life, that you have to be seeking it with the right intentions when you are seeking it. And that's something that I think, you know, it starts with a king getting corrupted by the prospect of material gain, so much that he puts up with the ugliness that comes with it, and that turns him against even his own family. And someone of you know, true beauty and true riches passed down, you know, from her genetics, her mother, her beauty, and, you know, her spiritual richness in terms of a kind personality, is sort of ousted from this environment of, like, complete materiality and rejected. But then we see how really two types of person fare when you confront them with the wisdom of the ancestors and when you confront them with the supernatural, is what I think that we see in that poem. Specifically how two types of women fare. I don't know, it's like, do you think, I was wondering what your, like, initial impressions were of what perhaps the symbolism of the well was, because I think they're very rich in symbolism from a lot of different cultures, and I can think of a few examples off the top of my head where I know wells are from. But what comes to your mind really when you think about when you think about this sort of magical well, because I think that's quite key to it.
As a Norwegian, my thoughts are immediately taken to the Well of Mimir uh,
Mhm.
from the Norse sagas,
Yeah.
where that is keeping wisdom, and Odin is sacrificing an eye to be able to
Mhm.
see from that
Yes.
well. And also, it's heavily tied to the three Norns, which of course are female, but
Yes.
the heads in the well are male in this story. But if we take it more as a symbolism, there are three
Mm.
of each, and the Norns
Yeah.
are using water from the well to water the roots of Yggdrasil, the world tree.
Mhm.
So it is a nourishing water, and one that will possibly give you a gift. But as
Mm.
with the heads, the Norns could be either malevolent or benevolent. So it depended on the Norns,
Yeah.
really. So they could give you good fortune or they could give you bad fortune, which the heads in the well most certainly do, depending on how you treat them.
Yeah. Offensive username says they were a bit baffled by the heads. I was at first too, but yeah, like Lynx has just said about that, I did actually settle on the Norn interpretation myself. The well as well. I did find out that in some cultures that actually represents life and the womb. That's more sort of going into the Asian cultures. You're sort of more getting that view about wells and the womb. But of course, wells are constructed around springs, sources of life as well.
We do have the expression
Mhm.
of a well
Yeah.
of life. So, and a well of wisdom. So, and many of our old deities from pre-Christian era had a connection to water.
Mm.
And even
Yes.
with Christianity, a lot of those were continued. Not necessarily as goddesses and deities, but
Yeah.
that springs and wells and water had a
Mm.
special meaning.
And I think I have read versions of this tale where those heads were female.
Oh, that's
I
interesting.
think I think in my book the heads were possibly female because yes, um, the Norns are typically women, but
They're only
things.
women. Norns are always women.
Yeah, they're always women.
Yeah.
Shouldn't really say typically, always. Yes. But yeah, things do get changed really as you pass down a tale throughout the years. Um, but I thought it was mainly about respecting the old ways because you've got, you know, these clearly divine beings that come from a well of knowledge, memory, truth. That's the sort of things that we kind of associate with wells, you know. And then you got heads that come out of them, the life force, the higher seat of the soul, they're representative of knowledge. But, as we say, most likely, three heads are the three fates, because they are literally telling and dictating how the girls' futures will be based on if they respected them. And gold, gold is obviously gold is obviously always very symbolic and divine because people would use it to make their symbolic divine objects because it was very solar. It was very representative of the sun. So we have these clearly divine beings popping up to two different sorts of women, and it does very much reaffirm the theory that the fates will punish you for acting unkindly. But also, I think perhaps it's specifically related to them being women. And yes, because like Offensive has just said, wells and water, it is typically more associated with the feminine in a lot of cultures. But we have one woman here who respects these ancient beings of knowledge and fate. She respects the ancestor, the old man, and then at the spring, the well of life, she's blessed with gifts of femininity, of divine femininity, because she performs this very feminine task of washing and prettifying the heads, which is assigned to her by the fates, and so she reaps the benefits. But then we've got the other woman who thinks that she knows better and she can reject the old man, the ancestors, and that she can scorn the fates, and that she can reject the tasks that they give her. Oh, thank you, Thin Red Line, for the diamond. That is wonderful. Thank you for that. Indeed.
Boudica is now
Oh,
hosting us,
and
so thank you
Boudica's.
very much, Boudica,
Thank you
and
indeed.
welcome.
Yeah, but she's rejecting this feminine task which has been given to her by the fates, and had she just listened at any stage, not just to the man, but at the well, and accepted what she was being told, accepted what she was being told by this person who is older than her, by these beings who are literally far older than her and supernatural, she could have gained the blessings of this femininity that was bestowed upon the other girl. But she thinks that the ancestor is beneath her, and the fates mean nothing to her, and the tasks being divinely assigned to her here are something she thinks she can just reject. And she's rejecting the feminine task of doing something nurturing handed to her by the fates. And so I think the type of task that she rejects and the way in which she handles herself as a woman is definitely very telling there. You know, I think one of these women has accepted femininity here, and another woman has just gone, no, I won't even try and do what's expected of me in the eyes of my ancestors. I'm beneath this washing, I'm beneath this prettifying the heads. But she's totally ignorant of the fact that there's knowledge to be gained from doing that. I don't know what you think about that, Lynx.
I agree with most of it. I would also like to point out that the old man in the cave is the old hermit,
Yeah.
the keeper of old wisdom, who has spent most of his life in solitude and therefore, at least hopefully, a closer connection to the divine.
Mm.
Uh, a monkish figure. So they are definitely not
Mm.
to be dismissed. And I would also like to point out that the good girl also takes care of keeping the head safe in putting them back into the well so they
Yeah.
won't get stolen. So it's not that she's just doing the task and doing what they say because she can
Yeah.
gain
She
something.
does definitely go the extra mile there as well.
Yeah.
And
Um,
I think that's what I was thinking though about intentions as well. But just for a second, because we've got the Thin Red Line asking where he can rewatch the show. We could all of it gets uploaded to YouTube as a video as we're streaming, so it's always available there. It's always going to be up on the channel for anyone to watch at any time. There should be some kind of schedule. We do have the set time for the show every week, but we could release, if people wanted to, we could release what order we were going to do the themes in, so you could catch a particular episode that you really wanted to catch, if that's something that people would like to do. Sorry about that there, Lynx. I think
That's
I
fine.
interrupted you.
Offensive username. I just put a YouTube link in the chat on the live. That is the channel. So just go and subscribe there, and you can find what we've done so far. I got a bit in a hurry, so I didn't
Yeah.
say what link I put in.
Yeah. What's YouTube? Is that some kind of new video place? Says the person hanging around on D-Life, which is far less normy actually. Uh, some kind of rotten place now. Yeah, you've got to be careful. But, we obviously know people still hanging around there, Philosophy Cat, Survive the Drive. We definitely want to have stuff on there, because we know it's so much more accessible to people who are only just getting into stuff. Yeah.
And we do try to do streams that are apolitical.
Yeah.
We basically just want to tell our own stories and point out the themes behind it and the deeper meanings of it. So yeah, that's we want to
Yeah.
share our deeper culture, our older culture, and keep it alive.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, with that
Yeah.
tale, I definitely just thought it was. I was reading it and I was like, the stepsister's attitude just seemed like emblematic of modernity to me. Like, I will get what I want, and of course I will get it because I want it bad enough, and it really doesn't matter how I, you know, go around treating people. It really doesn't matter if I, whose toes I step on. I will get what I want because I want it, and of course I'll go out there and find the same fortune as this other woman who's actually, making effort in life to be a good person. Why wouldn't I? Why don't I deserve it? I'm worth it. And I see a lot of that kind of attitude in contemporary discourse, particularly around women, of, just deserving the best because you're you. And that's what it reminded me of quite a bit.
Yeah, I really got to thinking about the concept of mothers and stepmothers um, related to our times, not in physical stepmothers, but when we see our young daughters go out into the world these days, go to university and college and everything, they are in many cases met by female lecturers that can sort of become their stepmother during that time. It's not easy moving away from home for the first time. Perhaps you have been with the same group of friends your whole life, and suddenly you are all spread all around the country.
Yeah.
And it's really going out into the world. They get to meet one or more quote unquote stepmothers who are leading them astray, who are making them in, well, it might not be very kind to say, but sort of spoiled little brats is always what they want. They are good enough no matter what. They don't have to do any effort. They deserve everything just because. And that usually mirrors the female lecturer's own
Mm.
inside, in my experience.
Yeah.
So I think it's a very descriptive of our times as well, and
Yeah,
how
definitely.
how our girls are, led astray, and it can be a very hard time finding your path back to where you're supposed to be. But it is possible. We see people do it all the time. So with some more experience and been out in the world for some years,
Mm.
many do find their way, in a delayed manner perhaps. But everything you do in life is a lesson.
Yeah,
Uh, you learn from it. So never give
definitely.
up.
No, I think. By the way, we got a diamond from Boudica, so just want to say thank you for that. I think we missed someone else's diamond as well. Someone said we would be good teachers, which is which is a really nice thing to say. Thank you. Like
There,
we,
it was, yeah,
I do hope to home educate my own children when I have them. So that's good to know that someone thinks that I would be a good teacher.
I most definitely think you will. For me, um, daycare has never been an option. And the more I've learned the last few years and see the development of the schools, homeschooling has been my ultimate goal as well.
Mm.
So, but Budika asked earlier if we are putting a book together with the stories and how awesome that would be. And her diamond was for the publishing fund. So we will definitely take that into consideration.
We shall.
We have, yeah, we have
I
just
mean, we're
started.
we're
So
pulling them ourselves though from all sorts of folktale anthologies and there are all sorts of collections. And
yeah,
I found some books literally today myself. I found a whole book on Celtic fairy tales, so I shall be perusing that for some good material sometime soon.
I've been partially doing my own translations and partially using others. And what I find when I use
Mm.
other people's translations is that they are, uh, I prefer to rewrite them, at least some.
Yeah.
And occasionally I have to make corrections. One of the stories I'm reading today, I had to make a correction for quite an important part of the story. So
Mm.
obviously, those who have translated it before, either one uh, who has made a mistake and that has just followed, or they don't know the significance of
Mm.
that part of the story. So
Yes, it is. It is a weird one when you've got two languages or multiple languages, and you look at a translation and think, nah, they've not quite got the right idea about what that was there.
yeah,
I
that is
remember being
one
a bit
thing.
similar about German translations sometimes.
Yeah. So I have found a site that has translated Norwegian stories. I've
Yeah.
used a couple of them and linked them a couple of times.
Mm.
But I wouldn't mind doing my own actually.
Yeah.
So that
Hard.
is up for consideration. Definitely, we will note
Mm.
it down.
Hearted
Perhaps
Europa
one day.
Publishing.
Yeah.
The the the
we
the new Arctos, lol.
Yeah, over here we have a project going for getting old recipes for knitted jumpers and sweaters.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so it was a massive effort of volunteers, and they actually created their own publishing firm to publish 2 books so far,
Huh.
with recipes and everything. So it's definitely possible.
Patterns. Patterns for all the jumpers and stuff. Nice.
Yeah, yeah. First there was one book, and it was so popular, and they had many other patterns as well. So they came out with the second book, and I
Yeah.
have both. They're a prized possession of mine.
Huh. Well, that's good to know that some people have already managed that. Well, Lynx,
Yeah,
would you like to do your first story?
yes.
Yeah.
Not chatting the night away,
Indeed,
cozy
yes.
as it is. Uh, so my first story of the evening is named King Valamon the White Bear. Now once upon a time there was, as there well might be, a king. He had 2 daughters who were ugly and bad, but the third was as fair and soft as the bright day, and the king and everyone was glad of her. So one day she dreamt of a wreath that was so lovely she couldn't live until she had it. But as she could not get it, she grew sullen and wouldn't so much as talk for grief. And when the king knew it was the wreath she sorrowed for, he sent out a pattern cut just like the one that the princess had dreamt of, and sent word to smiths in every land to see if they could get the like of it. So the goldsmith worked night and day, but some of the wreaths he took away from her, and the rest she would not so much as look at. But once, when she was in the wood, she set eyes upon a white bear, who had the very wreath she had dreamt of between his paws, playing with it. Then she wanted to buy it. No, for money. But she might have it, if he might have her. Yes, she said it was never worth living. It was all the same to her whither she went, and with whom she got, if she could only have the wreath. And so it was settled between them that he should fetch her when the 3 days were up, and that day was a Thursday. So when she went home with the wreath, everyone was glad because she was happy again. And the king said he thought it would never be so hard to stop a white bear. On the 3rd day he turned out his whole army around the castle to withstand him. But when the white bear came, there was no one who could stand before him, for no weapon would bite on his side, and he hurled them down right and left, so that they lay in heaps on either side. All this the king saw down scathed. So he sent out his eldest daughter, and the white bear took her upon his back and went off with her. And when they had gone far and farther than far, the white bear asked, "Have you ever sat softer? Have you ever seen clearer?" "Yes, on my mother's lap I sat softer, and in my father's hall I saw clearer," she said. "Oh," said the white bear, "then you're not the right one." And with that he hunted her home again. The next Thursday he came again, and it all went just the same. The army went out to defend with stumps and the white bear, but neither iron nor steel beat on his hide, and so he dashed them down like brass till the king begged him to hold hard, and then he sent out to him his next oldest daughter, and the white bear took her on his back and went off with her. So when they had travelled far and farther than far, the white bear asked, "Have you ever seen clearer? Have you ever sat softer?" "Yes," she said. "In my father's hall I saw clearer, and on my mother's lap I sat softer." "Oh, then you're not the right one," said the white bear, and with that he hunted her home again. The 3rd Thursday he came again, and then he smote the army harder than he had done before. So the king thought he couldn't let him slay a whole army like that, and he gave him his third daughter in God's name. So he took her upon his back and went away far and farther than far. And when they had gone deep, deep into the wood, he asked her as he had asked the others, "Have you ever sat as soft, or seen as clear?" "No, never," she said. "Ah," he said, "you're the right one." So they came to a castle which was so grand that the one her father had was like the poorest palace set against it. There she was to be and live happily, and she was to have nothing else to do but to see that the fire never went out. The bear was away by day, but at night he was with her, and then he was a man. So all went well for 3 years, but each year she had a baby, and I took it and carried it off as soon as ever it came into the world. Then she got more and more dull, and begged she might have leave to go home and see her parents. Well, there was nothing to stop that, but first she had to give her word that she would listen to what her father said, but not to what her mother wished. So she went home, and when they were alone with her, and she had told how she was treated, her mother wanted to give her a light to take back, that she might see what kind of man he was. But her father said no, she mustn't do that, for it would lead to harm and not to gain. But however it happened, so it happened. She got a bit of candle lamp to take with her when she started. So the first thing she did when he was sound asleep was to light the candle lamp and throw a light on him. And it was so lovely she never thought she could gaze enough at it. But as she held the candle over him, a hot drop of tallow dropped on his forehead, and he woke up. "What is this you have done?" he said. "Now you have made us both unlucky." There was no more than a month left, and had we lasted it out, I should have been saved. For a hag of the trolls has bewitched me, and I am a white bear by day. But now it is all over between us. So now I must go to her and take her to wife. She wept and bemoaned herself, but he must set off. He would set off. Then she asked if she might not go with him. No, he said, there was no way of doing that. But for all that, when he set off in his bear shape, she took hold of his shaggy hide and threw herself on his back and held on fast. So away they went over crags and hills, and through brakes and briars, till her clothes were torn off her back, and she was so dead tired that she let go her hold and lost her wits. When she came to herself, she was in a great wood, and then she set off again, but she could not tell whither she was going. So after a long, long time she came to a hut, and there she saw two women, an old woman and a pretty little girl. Then the princess asked, had they seen anything of King Ballamon, the white bear? Yes, they said. He passed by here this morning early, but he went so fast you'll never be able to catch him up. As for the girl, she ran about clipping in the air and playing with a pair of golden scissors, which were of that kind that silk and satin stuff flew all about her if she only clipped the air with them. Where they were, there was never any want of clothes. But this woman, said the little lass, who is to go so far and on such bad ways, she will suffer much. She may well have more need of these scissors than I to cut out her clothes with. And as she said this, she begged her mother so hard that at last she got leave to give her the scissors. So away travelled the princess through the wood, which seemed never to come to an end, both day and night, and the next morning she came to another house. In it there was also two women, an old wife and a young girl. Good day, said the princess. Have you seen anything of King Ballamon, the white bear? That was what she asked them. Was it you, maybe, who should have had him? Said the old wife. Yes, it was. Well, he passed by here yesterday, but he went so fast you'll never be able to catch him up. This little girl played about on the floor with a flask, which was of that kind it poured out every drink one wished to have. But his poor wife, said the girl, who has gone so far on such bad ways and has still far to go, I think she may well be thirsty and suffer much of her ill. No doubt she needs this flask more than I, and so she asked if she had leave to give her the flask. Yes, that leave she might have. got the flask and thanked them, and set off again through the same wood, both that day and the next one too. The third morning she came to a hut, where there was also an old wife and a little girl. "Good day," said the princess. "Good day to you," said the old wife. "Have you seen anything of King Valmon the White Bear?" she asked. "Maybe it was you who was to have him," said the old wife. "Yes, it was. Well, he passed by here the day before yesterday, but he went so fast you'll never be able to catch him up," she said. This little girl played around on the floor with a napkin, which was of that kind that when one said, "Napkin, spread yourself out and be covered with all dainty dishes," it did so, and where it was there was never any want of good dinner. "But this poor wife," said the little girl, "who has so far to go on such bad ways, she may well be starving and suffering much of her ill. I dare say she has far more need of this napkin than I." And so she asked if she might have leave to give her the napkin, and she got it. So the princess took the napkin and thanked them, and set off again, and farther than far and farther than far away through the same murk wood all that day and night. And in the morning she came to a cross fell, which was as deep as a wall, and so high and broad she could see no end to it. There was a hut there too, and as soon as she set foot inside it, she said, "Good day. Have you seen if King Valmon the White Bear has passed this way?" "Good day to you," said the old wife. "It was you, maybe, who should have him." "Yes, it was." "Well, he passed by and went up the hill 3 days ago, but of that nothing can get that is wingless. That hut, you must know, was so all full of small children, and they all hung around their mother's skirts and bawled for food. Then the goody put a pot on the fire full of small round pebbles. When the princess asked what that was for, the goody said they were so poor they had neither food nor clothing, and it went to her heart to hear the children screaming for a morsel of food. But when she put the pot on the fire and said, "The potatoes will soon be ready," the words dulled their hunger, and they were patient a while. It was not long before the princess brought out the napkin and the flask, that you may be sure of. And then the children were full and glad. She cut them clothes with her golden scissors. "Well," said the goody and the hut, "since you have been so kind and good towards me and my children, it were a shame if I did not do all in my power to try help you over the hill. My husband is one of the best smiths in the world, and now you must lie down and rest till he comes home, and then I'll get him to forge your claws for your hands and feet, and then you can see if you can crawl and scramble off." So when the smith came home, he set to work at once at the claws, and next morning they were ready. She had no time to stay and said, "Thank you," and then clung close to the rock and crept and crawled with the steel claws all that day and the next night. And just as she felt so very, very tired that she thought she could scarce lift a hand or foot, but must sit down, there she was right at the top. There she found a plain, with tilled fields and meads, so big and broad, she never thought there could be any land so wide and so flat. And close by was a castle full of workmen of all kinds, who swarmed like ants on an anthill. "What is going on here?" asked the princess. Well, if she must know, there lived old hag that bewitched King Valmon, the White Bear, and in 3 days she was to hold her wedding feast with him. Then she asked if she mightn't have a word with her. No, was that likely? It was quite impossible. So she sat down under the window and began to kick in the air with the golden scissors, till the silks and satins flew about as thick as a snowdrift. But when the old hag saw that, she was all for buying the golden scissors, so she said, "All that tailors can do is no good at all. We have too many to find clothes for." So the princess said it was not for sale for money. But she could have it if she got leave to sleep with her sweetheart that night. Yes, said the old hag. She might have that leave and welcome, but she herself must lull him to sleep and waken in the morning. And so when he went to bed, she gave him a sleeping draught, so that he could not keep an eye open, for all that the princess cried and wept. Next day the princess went under the window again, and began to pour out drink from a flask. It frothed like a brook with ale and wine, and was never empty. So when the old hag saw that, she was all for buying it, for she said, "For all our brewing and stilling, it's no good. We have too many to find drink for." But the princess said it was not for sale for money, but if she might have leave to sleep with her sweetheart that night, she might have it. Well, the old hag said, she might have that leave and welcome, but she herself must lull him to sleep and awaken in the morning. So when he went to bed, she gave him another sleeping draught, so that it went no better that night than the first. He was not able to keep his eye open, for all that the princess bawled and wept. But that night there was one of the workmen who worked in a room next to theirs. He heard the weeping and knew how things stood. So the next day he told the prince that she must become that princess who was to set him free. That day it was just the same story with the napkin as it was with the scissors and the flask. When it was about dinner time, the princess went outside the castle, took out the napkin and said, "Napkin, spread yourself out and be covered with all dainty dishes." And there was meat enough and to spare for hundreds of men. But the princess sat down to table by herself. So when the old hag set her eyes on the napkin, she wanted to buy it. For all the roasting and boiling, it's worth nothing. We have too many mouths to feed. But the princess said it was not for sale for money, but if she might have leave to sleep with her sweetheart at night, she might have it. Well, she might do so and welcome, said the old hag, but she must first lull him off to sleep and wake him up in the morning. So when he was going to bed, she came with a sleeping draught, but this time he was aware of her and made as though he slept. But the old hag did not trust him for all that, so she took a pin and stuck it into his arm to try if he was sound asleep. But for all the pain it gave him, he did not stir a bit, and so the princess got leave to come in. Then everything was soon set right between them, and if they could only get rid of the old hag, he would be free. So he got the carpenters to make him a trapdoor on the bridge over which the bride or friend had to pass. For it was the custom there that the bride rode at the head of the train with her friends. So when they got well on the bridge, the trapdoor tripped up the bride and all the old hags who were her bridesmaids. But King Valimon and the princess and all the rest of the train turned back to the castle, took all they could carry away of the gold and goods of the old hag, and so they set off for his own land, and were to hold the real wedding. And on the way King Valimon picked up those three little girls in the three huts and took them with him. And now she saw why it was he had taken her babes away and put them out to nurse. It was that they might help her find him out. And so they drank the bridal ale, both stiff and strong. And that was my first story.
Yeah.
It's one of those I grew up with as a child.
Mhm.
It's only really as an adult I really saw the value of the story. Uh, as so many others, it was just fairy tales for me for many years. But as most of them do, it really holds some true wisdom. And it also has quite a few echoes of your story with the good girl and the bad girl, so to speak.
Mm. think it does serve a bit of a parallel. Um, no, like one of the things that you notice is, I guess, kind of a transition in the princess from wanting to have that reef to, giving up fabulous objects that she's received just to see the prince. So I think maybe the princess makes a bit of a transition from um, a slightly selfish woman to like a better woman herself within that story.
Yeah, definitely. I see her transition from a little girl who, and as most girls, they are somewhat self-centered, and most kids are. Uh, but she has to transition herself to a selfless being, uh, going out on a dangerous journey to win her love back, and also learning the lesson of oh, no, my head stopped for a moment. The motherly feeling when she
Mm,
is feeding and clothing the girls of the last woman
yeah,
by the hill.
the nurturing. The
Hmm.
nurturing is kind of what she learns. She learns to make sacrifices, which is something that has always sort of been part of a heroic woman's role. To make sacrifices quite a lot involved in any like heroic story about women. Definitely.
Yeah, yeah, and it was definitely a test because she came into art and the wife and children were destitute, and yet uh, the husband of the family was one of the best smiths in the world.
Mm.
And it's a bit hard to see that they would be so poor if he was such a good craftsman. And goodbye, Didi. I'll see you later. Thank you for coming.
Yeah.
And so it really was a test in how generous she was with her gift of plenty, because that was what she was giving with the flask and the napkin
Mm.
and the scissors. So if she hadn't done that, I doubt she would have gotten help to get off that cliff, and probably wouldn't have found her man again.
No, definitely not. And I was just thinking, like, also the symbolism of the fact that she's sort of with a man who's been turned into a bear, and that sort of symbolism in terms of a warrior, and they're associated with warlike divinities and Thor and the Celtic Artio, and her, I don't know, it's interesting, like her husband is taken from her and she gets him back, and then there's the warrior symbolism and that bear. And I just thought maybe it like resonated with women long ago because their husbands would be taken from them in war, and there wouldn't really be anything they could do to get them back. You know?
Yeah, and the symbolic meaning of getting the clothes
Mm.
to climb the wall It's her finding her warrior spirit. And it's not a
Yeah.
warrior spirit like the men have necessarily, but she has proved herself that she is willing to fight for her family and for her love.
Yes.
Um, the bear definitely reminds me of, uh, and when he's fighting her father's soldiers and everything, it reminds me of the Berserker. So that might be a remnant in the tale. Uh, that was a cult warrior back in the Viking ages who worshipped the power of the bear and including dressing up in bear skins. And they were said that they were invincible when they went into their berserker mode, basically a frenzy. That steel wouldn't bite on them, and they were basically invincible, both in strength and that they couldn't be hurt. So that
Yeah.
definitely resonated with the bear.
Definitely. So
Yeah,
I guess she's finding the female equivalent of a warrior spirit there. Definitely. Yeah.
yeah. It's also interesting that they point out that neither iron nor steel would hurt the skin of the bear
Mm.
because it was an old folk belief that the devil and his creatures would be driven out by steel. They couldn't withstand iron, basically. So that is in several Norwegian tales that is made to capture uh, magical creatures or evil creatures or trolls and similar creatures. So
Yes.
that the bear isn't her shows us that he is a pure being. He's not evil. He's not up to bad things. So that I think that might be the reason for his father, her father, being willing to advising her against watching him. Finding out who he is. Also
Mm.
because he had defeated him, so it was you could say it's a valid game, a valid victory. Um, but I do find it interesting that it was her mother that she followed, and in the end, I think she gained more by following her mother's advice. Um, she gave her the light for the women's journey on it, going from a girl into a mother and wife. And that might not have been possible or less giving if she had just stayed put and kept the fire alive. Uh, so I do think it's something to do with
Mm.
men's wisdom and women's wisdom might be different. Keep in mind that the old hag or the troll, she wasn't honest with what she wanted to do with the prince. He kept tricking the young girl and the prince in order for her to keep him. And I don't see any real reason to trust that she wouldn't do some shenanigans to trip up the prince or the girl before the time was up. So, but it's hard to know. In any case, I do think that she learned more in the end by doing it this way. What do you think, Katrina?
I think that, yeah, I largely agree with what you said there. I think. Sorry, I've lost my thoughts
Okay,
a little bit.
that's okay.
I'm
That
just keeping
happens.
up a little bit with what's going on the YouTube.
Ah, that can be distracting. It takes a bit of time to be able to keep an eye on the chat and keep the show going. So,
Yeah, it
yeah,
can be a little it can be a little overwhelming with like the
yeah,
multiple things coming in at once.
yeah. I
So
will
yeah,
just pour myself a little drink in just now before my next story. So just hang on for a minute.
yep, yeah. Oh, we got someone new in the audience. Free through Christ. Hello, nice to see you. I'm followed as well. So yeah, we got 180 followers now. People, how many is it you need to get those little words that you can put by people's names? It's 200.
Yeah, that's 200, and then you can also host other streams on here. And we definitely want to do that and help out the community. So the
Oh,
more the merrier,
we got Blue
definitely.
Monday watching on YouTube.
Yeah,
Blue Monday says he doesn't really read the chat when he stream. That's one way of dealing with it. We do like
yeah,
to let people know it's appreciated that they come here though.
yeah. Hey, Blue Monday, good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you
uh,
around.
yeah. Okay, so are you guys
Yeah.
ready for my next story?
Yes.
Oh,
Let's go.
uh,
Mhm.
good night, JK. Thank you for modding for us.
Yes. Thank you very much. Good night.
Yeah.
Bye.
Okay. East of the sun and west of the moon. Once upon a time there was a poor husbandman who had many children and little to give them in ways of either food or clothing. They were all pretty, but the prettiest of all was the youngest daughter, who was so beautiful there was no bound to her beauty. So once, it was on a late Thursday evening in autumn, and a wild weather outside, terribly dark, and raining so heavily and blowing so hard that the walls of the cottage shook again. They were all sitting together by the fireside, each of them busy with something or other. Then suddenly someone rapped 3 times against the window pane. The man went out to see what could be the matter, and when he got out there stood a great big white bear. "Good evening to you," said the white bear. "Good evening," said the man. "Will you give me your youngest daughter?" said the white bear. "If you will, you shall be as rich as you now are poor." Surely the man would have no objection to be rich, but he thought to himself, "I must first ask my daughter about this." So he went in and told them that there was a great white bear outside, who had faithfully promised to make them all rich if he might but have the youngest daughter. She said no, and would not hear of it. So the man went out again and settled with the white bear that he should come again next Thursday evening and get her answer. Then the man persuaded her, talked so much to her about the wealth that they would have, and what good a thing it would be for herself, that at last she made up her mind to go, and washed and mended all her rags, made herself as smart as she could, and held herself in readiness to set out. Little enough she had to take away with her. Next Thursday evening the white bear came to fetch her. She seated herself on his back with her bundle, and thus they departed. When they had gone a great part of the way, the white bear said, "Are you afraid?" "No, that I am not," she said. "Keep tight hold of my fur, and then there will be no danger," said he. And thus she rode far, far away until they came to a great mountain. Then the white bear knocked on it, and a door opened, and they went into a castle where there were many brilliantly lighted rooms which shone with gold and silver, likewise a large hall in which there was a well spread table. And it was so magnificent that it would be hard to make anyone understand how splendid it was. The white bear gave her a silver bell, and told her that when she needed anything she had but to ring the bell, and what she wanted would appear. So after she had eaten and night was drawing near, she grew sleepy after her journey, and thought she would like to go to bed. She rang the bell, and scarcely had she touched it before she found herself in a chamber where a bed stood ready made for her, which was as pretty as anyone could wish to sleep in. It had pillows of silk, and curtains of silk fringed with gold, and everything that was in the room was of gold or silver. But when she lay down and put out the light, a man came and lay down beside her, and behold, it was the white bear, who had cast off the form of a beast during the night. She never saw him, however, for he always came after she had put out her light, and went away before the daylight appeared. So all went well and happily for a time. But then she began to be very sad and sorrowful, for all day long she had to go about alone. And she did so wish to go home to her father and mother and brothers and sisters. Then the white bear asked what it was she wanted, and she told him that it was so dull there in the mountain, and that she had to go about it all alone, and that in her parents' house at home there was all her brothers and sisters, and it was because she could not go to them that she was so sorrowful. "There might be a cure for that," said the white bear, "but you must promise me never to talk to your mother alone, but only when the others are there too. For she will take hold of your hand," he said, "and will want to lead you into a room to talk with you alone. But that you must not by any means do, or you will bring great misery on both of us." So one Sunday the white bear came and said that he could now set out to see her father and mother, and they journeyed thither, and she sitting on her back, and they went a long, long way, and it took a long, long time. But at last they came to a large white farmhouse, and her brothers and sisters were running outside it, playing, and it was so pretty it was a pleasure to look at it. "Your parents dwell here now," said the white bear, "but do not forget what I said to you, or you will do much harm to both yourself and me." "No, indeed," said he, "I shall never forget." And as soon as she was at home, the white bear turned around and went back again. There was such rejoicing when she went in to her parents that it seemed as if they would never come to an end. Everyone thought that he could never be sufficiently grateful to her for all that she had done for them. Now they had everything they wanted, and everything was as good as it could be. They all asked her how she was getting on where she was. All was well with her too, she said. She had everything that she could want. What others gave, what other answers she gave, I cannot say. But I'm pretty sure that I did not learn much from her. During the afternoon, after they had dined at midnight, all happened just as the white bear had said. Her mother wanted to talk to her alone in her own chamber, but she remembered what the white bear had said, and would on no account go. "What we have to say can be said at any time," she answered. But somehow or other her mother at last persuaded her, and she was forced to tell the whole story. So she told how every night a man came and lay down beside her when the lights were out, and how she never saw him, because he always went away before it grew light in the morning, and how she continually went about in sadness, thinking how happy she would be if she could see him, and how all day long she had to go about it alone, and it was so dull and solitary. Oh, cried the mother in horror, you are very likely sleeping with a troll, but I will teach you a way to see him. You shall have a bit of one of my candles, which you can take away with you hidden in your breast. Look at him with that when he is asleep, but take care not to let any towel drop on him. So she took the candle and hid it in her breast, and when the evening drew near, the white bear came to fetch her away. Then they had gotten a distance on their way, the white bear asked if everything had not happened just as he had foretold, and she could not but to own up to that it had. Then, if you have done as your mother wished, said he, you have brought great misery in both of us. No, she said, I have done nothing at all. When she had reached home and had gone to bed, it was just the same as it had been before. A man came and lay down beside her, and late at night, when she could hear that he was sleeping, she got up and kindled the light, lit her candle, and let the light shine on him, and saw him, and he was the handsomest prince that eyes had ever beheld. And she loved him so much that it seemed to her that she must die if she did not kiss him that very moment. So she did kiss him, but while she was doing it, she let 3 drops of hot tallow fall upon his shirt, and he awoke. What have you done now? Said he. You have brought misery on both of us. If you had but held out for the space of 1 year, I should have been free. I have a stepmother who has bewitched me, so that I am a white bear by day and a man by night. But now all is at an end between you and me, and I must leave you and go to her. She lives in a castle that lies east of the sun and west of the moon, and there too is a princess with a nose which is 3 ells long, and now she is the one I must marry. She wept and lamented, but all in vain, for he must go. Then she asked him if she could not go with him, but no, that could not be. Can you tell me the way then, and I will seek you? That I may surely be allowed to do. Yes, you may do that, said he, but there is no way thither. It lies east of the sun and west of the moon, and never would you find the way there. When she woke in the morning, both the prince and the castle were gone, and she was lying on a small green patch in the midst of a dark, thick wood. By her side lay the self-made bundle of rags which she had brought with her from her own home. So when she had dropped the sleep out of her eyes and wept till she was weary, she set out on her way, and thus she walked for many, many a long day, until at last she came to a great mountain. Outside it was an aged woman sitting, playing with a golden apple. The girl asked if she knew the way to the prince who lived with his stepmother in the castle which lay east of the sun and west of the moon, and who was to marry a princess with a nose with 3 ells long. How do you happen to know about him? Inquired the old woman. Maybe you are the one who ought to have had him. Yes, indeed I am, she said. So is it you then? Said the old woman. I know nothing about him, but that it dwells in the castle which is east of the sun and west of the moon. He will be a long time in getting to it, if ever you get to it at all. But you shall have the loan of my horse, and then you can ride on it to an old woman who is a neighbor. Perhaps she can tell you about him. When you have got there, all you have to do is to strike the horse beneath the left ear and bid it to go home again. But, but you can take the golden apple with you as well. You might have need for it. So the girl seated herself on the horse and rode for a long, long way, and at last she came to the mountain where an aged woman was sitting outside with a gold swift. The girl asked her if she knew the way to the castle which lay east of the sun and west of the moon, but she said that the first woman had said, I know nothing about it, but that is east of the sun and west of the moon, and that it will be a long time to get to it, if ever you get there at all. But you shall have the loan of my horse to an old woman that lives nearest to me. Perhaps she might know the way to the castle. And when you have got there, just strike the horse beneath the left ear and bid it go home again. Then she gave her the gold swift, for it might perhaps be of use to her, she said. So the girl seated herself on the horse and rode a wearisome long way onward again. And after a very long time she came to a great mountain where an aged woman was sitting, spinning at a golden spinning wheel. For this woman too, she inquired if she knew the way to the prince, and where to find the castle which lay east of the sun and west of the moon. But it was only the same thing once again. Maybe it was you who should have had the prince, said the old woman. Yes, indeed, I should have been the one, said the girl. But this old crone knew the way no better than the others. It was east of the sun and west of the moon. She knew that, and you will be a long time in getting to it, if ever you get to it at all, said. But you may have the loan of my horse, and I think you had better ride to the east wind and ask him. Perhaps he may know where the castle is, and will blow it thither. But when you have got to him, you must strike the horse beneath the left ear, and he will come home again. And then he gave her the golden spinning wheel, saying, Perhaps you may find that you have use for it. The girl had to ride for a great many days, and for a long and wearisome time, before she got there. But at last she did arrive, and then she asked the East Wind if he could tell her the way to the prince who dwelt east of the sun and west of the moon. Well, said the East Wind, I have heard tell of the prince and of his castle, but I do not know the way to it, for I have never blown so far. But if you like, I will go with you to my brother the West Wind. He may know that, for he is much stronger than I. You may sit on my back, and then I will carry you there. So she seated herself on his back, and they did go so swiftly. When they got there, the East Wind went in and said that the girl whom he had brought was the one who ought to have the prince up at the castle, which lay east of the sun and west of the moon, and that now she was travelling about to find him again. So he had come here with her, and would like to hear if the West Wind knew the whereabouts of the castle. No, said the West Wind, so far as that I have never blown. But if you like, I will go with you to the South Wind, for he is much stronger than either of us, and he has roamed far and wide, and perhaps he can tell you what you want to know. You may seat yourself on my back, and then I will carry you to him. Did this and journeyed to the South Wind, neither was she very long on the way. When they had got there, the West Wind asked him if he could tell her the way to the castle that lay east of the sun and west of the moon, for she was the girl who ought to have married the prince who lived there. Oh, indeed, said the South Wind, is that she? Well, I have wandered about a great deal in that time, and all kinds of places, but I have never blown so far as that. If you like, however, I will go with you to my brother, the North Wind. He is the oldest and strongest of us all, and if he doesn't know where the castle lies, then no one in the world will be able to tell you. You may sit upon my back, and then I will carry you there. So she seated herself on his back, and off he went from his house in a great haste. And they were not long on the way. When they came near to the North Wind's dwelling, he was so wild and frantic, so they could feel cold gusts a long while before they got there. What do you want? He roared out from afar, and they froze as they heard. No need to be so crude and rude, It is I, and this is she who should have had the prince who lives in the castle which lies east of the sun and west of the moon. And now she wishes to ask you if you have ever been there and get her away, for she would gladly find him again. Yes, said the North Wind, I know where it is. I once blew an aspen leaf there, but I was so tired for many days afterward, and I was not able to blow at all. However, if you really are anxious to go there and are not afraid to go with me, I will take you on my back and try if I can blow you there. Get there I must, said she, and if there is any way of going, I will. I have no fear, no matter how fast you go. Very well then, said the North Wind, but we must sleep here tonight, for if we are ever to get there, we must have the day before us. So the North Wind woke her up the next morning, puffed himself up, and made himself so big and strong that it was frightful to see him. And away they went, high up through the air, as if they would not stop until they had reached the very end of the world. Down below there was such a storm. It blew down woods and houses, and when they were about the sea, the ships were wrecked by the hundreds. And thus they tore on, and a long time went by, and then yet more time passed, and still they were about the sea. And the North Wind grew tired, and more tired, and at last so utterly weary that it was scarcely able to blow any longer, and it sank and sank, lower and lower, until at last he went so low that the waves dashed against the heels of the poor girl he was carrying. "Art thou afraid?" said the North Wind. "I have no fear," said she, and it was true. But they were not very far from land, and there was just enough strength left in the North Wind to enable him to throw her on the shore, immediately under the windows of a castle which lay east of the sun and west of the moon. But then he was so weary and worn out that he was forced to rest for several days before he could go his own home again. The next morning she sat down beneath the wall of the castle to play with the golden apple, and the first person she saw was the maid with the long nose who was to have the prince. "How much do you want for that gold apple of yours, girl?" said she, opening the window. "It can't be bought for gold nor money," answered the girl. "If it cannot be bought with either gold or money, what will buy it?" "You may say what you please," said the princess. "Well, if I may go to the prince who is here, and be with him tonight, you shall have it," said the girl who had come with the North Wind. "You may do that," said the princess, for she had made up her mind what she would do. So the princess got the golden apple, but when the girl went to the prince's apartment that night, he was asleep, for the princess had so contrived it. The poor girl called to him, shook him, and between whiles she wept, but she could not wake him. In the morning, as soon as day dawned, in came the princess with the long nose and drove her out again. In the daytime she sat down once more beneath the windows of the castle, and began to wind with her golden swift. And then all happened as it had happened before. The princess asked her what she wanted for it, and she replied it was not for sale for either gold nor money, but that if she could get leave to go to the prince and be with him during the night, she would have it. And when she went up to the prince's room, he was again asleep, and let her call him, or shake him, or weep as she would, he still sat on, and she could not put any life in him. When daylight came in the morning, the princess with the long nose came too, and once more drove her away. When day had quite come, the girl seated herself under the castle window, spinning with her golden spinning wheel, and the princess with the long nose wanted to have that also. So she opened the window and asked what she would take for it. The girl said what she had said on each of the former occasions, that it was not for sale for either gold nor for money, but if she could get leave to go to the prince who lived there, and be with him during the night, she should have it. Yes, said the princess, I will gladly consent to that. But in that place there were some Christian folk who had been carried off, and they had been sitting in the chamber next to the prince, and they had heard how a woman had been in there, who had wept and called him in two nights running, and they told the prince of this. So that evening, when the princess came once more with a sleeping drink, he pretended to drink, but threw it away behind him, for he suspected that it was a sleeping draught. So when the girl went into the prince's room, this time he was awake, and she had to tell him how she had come there. You have come just in time, said the prince, for I should have been married tomorrow. But I will not have the long-nosed princess, and you alone can save me. I will say that I want to see what my bride can do, and bid her wash this shirt which has the 3 drops of tallow on it. This she will consent to do, for she does not know that it is you who let fall on it. But no, but no one can wash them out but one born of Christian folk. It cannot be done by one of a pack of trolls. And then I will say that no one shall ever be my bride but the woman who can do this. And I know that you can. There was great joy and gladness between them all that night. But the next day, when the wedding was to take place, the prince said, I must see what my bride can do. That you may do, said the stepmother. I have a fine shirt which I want to wear as my wedding shirt. The 3 drops of tallow have gotten upon it, that I want to have washed out. And I have vowed to marry no one but the woman who is able to do it. If she cannot do that, she is worth nothing, and not worth having. Well, that was a very small matter, they thought, and agreed to it. The princess with the long nose began to wash as well as she could, but the more she washed and rubbed, the larger the spots grew. Oh, you can't wash at all, said the old tall hag, who was her mother. Give it to me. But she too had not had the shirt very long in her hands before it looked worse still, and the more she washed and rubbed it, the larger and blacker grew the spots. So the other trolls had come to wash, but the more they did, the blacker and uglier grew the shirt, until at length it was as black as if it had been up in the chimney. Oh, cried the prince, not one of you is good for anything at all. There is a beggar girl sitting outside the window, and I'll be bound that she can wash better than any of you. Come in, you girl there, he cried. So she came in. Can you wash this shirt clean? He cried. Oh, I don't know, she said, but I will try. And no sooner had she taken the shirt and dipped it in the water than it was as white as driven snow, and even whiter than that. I will marry you, said the prince. Then the old hag flew into such a rage that she burst, and the princess with the long nose and all the little trolls must have burst too, for they have never been heard of since. The prince and his bride set free all Christian folk who was imprisoned there, and took away with them all the gold and silver they could carry, and moved far, far away from the castle, which lay east of the sun and west of the moon. And that was my second story of the evening. Ah,
Thank
good evening, Kamadian. Good to see you.
you. Good to see everyone. And I think it was I think Ass Kicker 47 was now hosting. We are
Ah,
being
5047. Ah,
we're
thank you.
we're being hosted. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Apparently people could hear me typing responses then, which is unusual because I didn't know my little headset mic was actually good enough to pick up anything that I was doing that wasn't actually directly in front of it. So that picks up more than I thought. Actually,
Apparently so.
I thought it was I thought it was crap enough that I could probably get away with that. I've muted my Discord as well.
Well, we learn as we go.
Katrina Fwaz, hello. This is a meme now, isn't it?
It is becoming that, it seems.
Tis indeed.
And Glob is here, and Timmy Bobbinson, good to see you. And
Yeah,
yes, Canadian has said hi to. Right Meow, good to see you as well. And Peter
yeah.
Lapland.
Oh,
Uh,
should we open the lemon chest? Should I add a bit? I'll add a bit more to the lemon chest.
uh,
50 lemons to the lemon chest. Smith.
I was planning on saying a few words on the story, but you can do the just now,
Before,
of course.
before we do, I was just thinking before we do the words on the story, we open the lemon chest and then have a bit of a discussion. Perhaps.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead, open chest. Let the lemons rain.
Lemons. Lemons in T minus 22 seconds.
Apparently your keyboard isn't daring. So it must be a special keyboard you have. Yellow rain. Is no purple rain in D-Live. Oh
Hey!
yes. You have to be in the wrong channel, Blue Monday, to get the lemons.
Never surrender. 25.2 lemon. Offensive username. 14.9 lemon. Canadian. 11 lemons. Besought 9 lemons. And red pill pharmacist appears to have got 7.6 lemons. Nice.
Congratulations to the winners. I hope you enjoy the
Congratulations.
lemons and make some good lemonade.
Yeah.
Would you like to start by saying a few words?
I don't know.
Or
I guess you can say what you think about the story first.
okay.
Definitely, because I know that certain aspects of these definitely come with a bit of a cultural context.
Do,
Yeah.
but this one is a bit universal, I think. With the exception of the trolls, there's maybe not something that's specifically Norwegian, in particular. But the main thing that struck me reading this story is how this is another path to heroism for women. Um, in the previous story, the girl learned to be a mother, and in this story, she is learning to be a wife. And I found that very interesting because it echoes some of the concepts that Evola had on the path of heroism for women, quite closely so. He posited that women have, at least in this line of thought, two archetypes within them. One is Demeter, who is the mother, and Aphrodite, who is the muse. And so I would say that the first story I read is a Demeter story in many ways. And the one I read now is more of an Aphrodite story in that she is focusing on the prince, on her love. And she also has to have the help of three old women, and they each give her a gift. We have the spinning wheel, and we have the swift, which is used to measure the length of yarn. And then there is the golden apple. This is very significant because that ties the women to the Norns, the faith, who one spin the thread of life, the other measures it, and the last one will cut it. But the
Mm.
girl didn't get a scissors, she got a golden apple. And that
Yeah,
echoes the golden apple of Idun, which gave eternal life to the gods in the Norse tradition.
that is true.
So
Yeah.
that is quite a profound imagery there, because it shows her by
Mm.
not giving up, fighting to get back to her man, no matter what. She will, so to speak, gain eternal life. It will bring her on the path to getting the life in heaven, after life.
Mm. Yes,
And
definitely. Another thing I noticed about that was definitely cleansing something that no one else could cleanse. Being capable of performing an exemplary feat of cleansing an eternal stain by having that sort of divine energy or faith or realization. That was an interesting one for me, that particular bit.
yeah,
Oh,
uh,
excuse me.
it also struck me that the spots were from the tallow candle she had gotten from her mother, and the little candle stump was hidden in her breast. So her mother gave her the means to light the way for her to finding that path to heroism. And at the end of everything, that gave her
Mm.
the means to win her prince. And as she was the only one who could get the stains out, that is quite fitting, don't you think?
Yeah, I do think so. I do think so. I just I think I just need to nip for a minute and get myself a drink of water, if you don't mind. Thanks. That's cool. I just
that
nip off for just a minute.
that's fine. We
Yeah,
all have to get the throats limbered up,
yeah.
and I will keep talking in the meantime. I do I do want to point out one thing um, in the story. I have to change the translation in it, because one of the gifts in the English version was um, she was giving a carding comb, which is used before the fabric is spun. But the Norwegian version had um, a swift, which, as I said, is used to measure it. So I definitely think that is something I would like to change back into the original, because it will pertain more to the story. I do see why he might have gone to a comb instead, because he might not know what a Swift is, or what translation it was. It was actually quite hard for me to find. Uh, but in changing that part of the story, um, the tie to the Norns are lost, and that is definitely one of the more profound things in this tale. Um, another part is that I noticed was that she has to, as I said, travel to the three old wives, the old hags, as it were. And then she had to get help from the winds of all directions, which was very interesting. And needing the help of the winds of the east and the west and the south and the north, it echoes in a sort of invoking the directions of the world. And I did find that very interesting as well.
Hmm. Um. Yep. I'm back now. Yeah, the winds are something I found interesting too. I know there can be a lot of symbolicness to the direction of north, and I think I've heard of the dead going north in some traditions, and certain sacred sites being oriented north. And yeah, Canadians has actually brought up the four horsemen,
Yeah,
which
that as
is
well.
yeah, could definitely be
Uh,
symbolic of the four directions. Yeah.
mhm. I didn't actually know that some traditions have the soul go north after
Um,
death, so that was very interesting.
I do actually. I'll have to try and find. I think it was a Survive the Drive video where I did discuss it. But yeah, there's been. I find it interesting how there's really been this like symbolic dimension to north, and I suppose it's because it's the one direction that everyone can find with the pole star, and it's your orientation. So maybe they do think that divine things or mysterious things do lie in the north, just
Yeah,
because of that sort of bright light that comes from it. It's an interesting one.
uh, yeah. I do wonder if there is something that has been lost over the years
Mm.
uh, that hasn't been passed on down to us, but that would explain that. There are a few stories in Norway which contains the North Wind, including one where a boy actually goes to see the North Wind to get back some stuff he lost when the North Wind flew by a bit wildly one day, and he actually gets it.
Oh,
But he does definitely learn a lesson on the way. So you shouldn't seek out the North Wind just like that, perhaps.
yeah, you shouldn't just seek him out for any old reasons. He is, after all, quite a powerful wind. Yeah.
Definitely. Uh, I do want to recommend a video on women's path to heroism
Oh,
from
yes.
the Ebolian perspective. The wonderful philosophy camp has made one. It is about 20 to 25 minutes, I think.
Mm.
And in there, she goes into more detail on this point of view and what women can learn from it. Because an archetype is an archetype, and one person can't embody that. So we all have both Demeter and Aphrodite in us. We It might not be in the same relation for every woman. While most women are heavy on the Demeter, there are a minority of women who are more Aphrodite women. So their focus in their life will be different
Mm.
from the Demeter heavy women.
Yeah.
But you can work on these two archetypes to improve them if you see the need in your own life. So it's something to work actively with. Definitely a good lesson for women today, I would think.
Mm. Yeah, definitely. No, it's interesting always to see these paths for heroism for women that are authentic as opposed to the
Yeah,
very I think a lot of women feel very alienated by the sort of artificial, you know, butt kicking, fighting, actual warrior woman that's kind of pushed upon us as the only way to be heroic nowadays, you know? And it's just always nice to have tales where you can be heroic with kindness, which is, I think, far more in keeping with female nature.
yeah. I do think that most women have the fighter instinct in them, including
Mm.
physically, when push really comes to shove.
Yes, when push really
But
comes to shove, you do, because of
yeah,
course, you see it with any animal as well. Mothers can be some of the fiercest fighters in protecting their young. So yeah, no, I definitely think when it comes down to it, it is sometimes part of the female role to actually physically fight. But yeah,
uh,
definitely not as a first port of call.
no, it's not. We are more of the nurturing kind. And one of the huge lessons for women to learn is unconditional love, whether it is for our children or our husbands.
Hmm.
And one thing I think has been sort of lost for women over the last few decades is something that feminism has taken away from us,
Hmm.
in that it's being looked down on if we want to be stay-at-home mothers. Um, Even marriage for some is a no-no because I'm not sure. Maybe they feel like they are subservient to the men or something, but we are designed to work as a whole. We aren't the same, but we complement each other. Um,
Yeah.
and by doing that, we can strengthen each other where we need it and help each other on the way. And I think that is something we need to find back to. And another point is that women are now forced more into male roles, while I'm of
Always. Yeah.
yeah, I'm of the opinion that women have always worked in some form or another, so it's nothing new for women to work. But the nature of the work is new, and we are in competition with the men, and that didn't used to be
Yeah.
the case. What I observe is that quite a few women, in particular when they start to climb the ladder, so to speak, is a tendency to sort of larp like men,
Hmm. Yeah.
being more masculine, or there is the sort of the opposite as well, in that they become the overly sexualized woman and using that for everything that is worth. It is a strength that women have, but it is easily misused. Today, I would say it's mostly misused, used for ills. And in this development, I think quite a few women are very lost. They don't really know what they are supposed to do. They don't fit in the roles they are told they are supposed to have. And
Yes.
I think we need to find back to this and allow ourselves to use our strengths and become women again in many ways.
Yeah, the traditional feminine role is seeming very daunting to a lot of people because I think in reality a lot of women reject the role because society is allowing them to choose, in some ways, the less difficult thing. In some ways, it's a lot less difficult to be a career woman than it is to be a mother because you don't have sort of the same feelings surrounding a career about like am I doing this right? Am I messing up a small person? You know, it's it's sort of taking away your responsibility for anything beyond your lifetime. And I think a lot of people find that easier, and because a lot of us didn't have mentors in terms of how to do womaning. A lot of us have copped out of, you know, being a mother, having a husband, fulfilling that traditional feminine role, because I think in a lot of people's minds it's actually too hard. It's too hard to expect them to do that.
Mm. And the element of self-sacrifice in that.
Yes,
Uh,
exactly.
m- Many have been convinced that they shouldn't go for that, but in the end, it's the biggest thing a woman can do, and it would also be the most satisfying. We do see many women who are mothers and working as well.
Mm.
We see many of them choose to work part time or they refrain from trying to get promotions because they instead want time with their family. I have personally known nurses who have exclusively worked night shift in order to
Mm.
be available for the children at home during the daytime. So,
Well, actually, yeah, that's a familiar experience. For
mm,
myself, my mother worked night shifts at her job to
yeah,
be available for us, which is a bad thing for women to have to do because obviously, you're working night shifts, twilights, you get really, really, really tired, and
yeah,
so you can't actually
it
be
can,
quite properly, you know, no, absolutely no criticism on my mother here, but you can't quite properly be there because you're just so tired.
and also it can mess with the hormone system of the body. So
Mm.
it's not really healthy to do. But we do see that women still do sacrifice for the family and put the family first. But there are certain aspects with modern life that can make it hard for some people to take the step to be a full-time stay-at-home mother.
Yeah,
It might
definitely.
be financial, or it may be that they simply don't see it as something you do. Uh, Women are very ruled by society and what is acceptable or not. And these days it's looked down upon. So few women will decide to take that leap. and do what perhaps their heart is telling them. But I have also heard that some women in certain universities are usually just, oh, I want a career, I want to travel, and all of those things we hear from young women these days.
Yeah, definitely.
But But in parties, some of them when they get drunk, they might actually start to telling the truth, and what they really want is just a husband and children. And many of them definitely start to realize that when they are around 30. Um, so it's not lost entirely, but we have to work on that and allow women to be women again. So much. I consider feminism a war on the feminine in many ways. So,
Yes, very much the same.
mhm,
It's something that from quite a young age endeavored to get into our lives and tell us that doing anything traditionally feminine was kind of not bad, but you could be doing better. Like, well, why not be a woman in STEM? That'd be better to go and do. You know, everything we had to do was about sticking it to the men, and I think that's why it's important to get these old stories about women and show young women that there's something heroic in being how a woman has traditionally always been. Definitely.
yes, I would definitely like to get that back into play again. Um, I think that many women today, in particular those who grew up in a daycare center, they don't really know what it's like to be at home. So they don't really know how to
Mm.
choose it or uh, choose not to do it because it don't, as I said, they don't really know. Then their daughters will grow up thinking that this is normal. This is how it's supposed to be. I did. And so the option is in many ways taken away from us. I would like to reinvigorate that, get it back online.
I think definitely so. And hopefully, you know, for women around today, the stories that we've read have provided something to think about in terms of the
Mm-hmm,
feminine. And I think anyone should definitely watch the Philosophy Cat videos, both on the feminine roles, Aphrodite and Demeter, and the crone, which
mm-hmm.
is a lesser known path that she covers, which is more for when a woman has done with having children, or if for some reason a woman was never able to have them, then that is the sort of life path which could be useful then. And she's also done the masculine ones. It's a very useful little summary of the ideas, definitely, because
Uh,
I'm glad it's there because I tell you, I'm trying to get through Evola um, on Eros and the Mysteries of Love, if I get the title right there. That's very dense. That's hard
yeah,
going.
I'm trying to get through Revolt Against the Modern World, which Philosophica is also doing a series on, and I highly recommend it.
Oh, yes.
Um,
Yes, thank goodness for that. I wouldn't be understanding Revolt of the Modern World quite so much if I hadn't rewatched the series.
uh, it is
Definitely
very
not.
it is very dense, but what I've read so far, it actually strikes with something in my core in many ways.
Mm,
It explains many attitudes and
mm,
ways I've thought ever since I was a child, really. and finally I get the explanation of it.
Yeah.
And I definitely like that. And in many ways, it's like reading something I've forgotten.
Mm.
So I think it's definitely onto something there. So I highly recommend it. Philosophy
Definitely.
Cat is brilliant in every way, so
Mm.
go find her. We will tweet and send out on
Yes, we'll
Telegram the links
definitely
after
tweet.
the show.
Yes, we will. We will tweet Philosopher Cat's videos, and we've already put the story links out there. But there's a bit of Heroine's Journey article which I found as well, which I might put out, which I think I can see some of the tropes of in these tales. I think it might be written from someone coming to a little bit of a feminist perspective, but not too bad. Yeah.
Yeah, there are actually quite a few lefty women who are searching for the truth.
Mm.
Some of them end up in, worshipping the goddess and wanting to find their inner goddess and all of that.
Yeah.
And that is unbalanced. It comes from a toxic point.
Yeah, you
But there,
I'm
there
of
are,
the opinion that you gotta have masculinity and femininity in your divine.
yeah. But what I hear from one woman, Laura Lee, is she's an
Mhm.
older woman. She's been in those circles since the 80s or something, I think.
Yeah.
Um, Both the men and the women were doing great work, and then it became subverted
Mm.
and going into the toxic stuff that we see today. But there are some genuine seekers. I will also send out the link to Laura Lee's site. She has done a
Yes.
wonderful series on
Yeah.
The Lord of the Rings that I highly recommend. It's
Mm.
She still has one episode to go, I think, but those who are up and running so far, it's definitely worth a watch. She has done interviews with Jared and Jason on the After Project, so that should also be checked out. Uh, yeah, I think I will have quite a list of links to tweet and
Yes.
Telegram out today.
So yeah, we have extensive post-show resources for you today. I hope everyone's had a nice evening, and yep, thank goodness we managed to get back on
Yeah.
after all that delay. I was fuming at Discord when it kicked me off. I was
Uh,
just there like, no. Why would you do that?
it always happens when you shouldn't, and I still have to
Mm.
figure out what the H is going on with my OBS because it suddenly didn't want to work and even cut out my sound. So
Yeah.
uh, it seems I will have a week of techie stuff to do.
Yes. Techie stuff.
Yeah, tech
But
is very
yes.
great.
Yep, the replay's going to be up on here for 3 days and on YouTube for like ever. So no
Yeah,
time limit on when you can watch. Just watch on either platform whenever's convenient for you because the YouTube's gonna be there for the long haul. So that's good. You can go back to it, hear the stories whenever you want to.
um,
Lynx is a predator. Yes, technically lynxes are.
yeah, they are. They are wonderful felines.
Not this lynx though. This lynx is perfectly nice. Even
uh, don't piss me off. Then I'm not
probably
that nice. But I do my best to keep it nice.
excluding when angry. No, the
Yeah,
the the actual lynx that you use as your profile picture is he has he has an expression that could mean many things.
that's why I chose it.
Yes.
because we can't really say what it's up
Mm.
to. It could be anything. So it's sort of an enigma. So oh,
Yeah.
I agree, and
Missed the
it will
beginning.
be up. Well, I'm sorry for that. Hope you will be able to catch it the next Sunday. We will
Mhm.
be on at the same time as this week. That will
Yes.
be 3 p.m. on the eastern coast and 8 p.m. UK time and 9 p.m. Central European time. So
Yep.
hope to see you there next week.
Yep. And thank you to everyone who's been around. And I could just gonna check if I haven't missed any donations or anything like that.
Really
Because I
feel bad
remember,
if you miss anything. So
yeah, we do honestly. And we're gonna try and like shout out our biggest like donators or anyone who donated really every time, and we really appreciate just comments, stickers. Thanks for the lemons, Penny. Um, and we just really appreciate everybody being here. Timmy,
mm.
lemons. Thank you.
And every donation will be put into the show or distributed in the D-Live community. So
Yeah.
we want to spread the love.
Yes. Lemons. We tend to like. I've given like diamonds to Links and we've split them like between. We will split them between two accounts and we shall distribute lemons to various bits of equipment and right wing creators. Is
Mm,
the plan.
yeah.
But
Well,
yeah.
I hope that you have enjoyed the stories and the show and have a wonderful week and
Mm-hmm.
see you next Sunday.
See you next Sunday, everyone. Goodbye. Goodbye, everyone.